Well, training has become a motherhood issue in the corporate world. Everyone applauds it. Most companies do at least a bit of it. But according to my next guest, a few are getting much out of it, workers or their bosses. Jim Clemmer is a business consultant whose latest book is called Growing the Distance. Good morning, Jim. Thanks for joining me.
Good morning.
Your latest book talks a lot about leadership, and that it's not just leadership at the top, but leadership throughout the organization, which is what people need. And presumably, training is to help people figure out how they can lead in whatever they're doing. Why is so much of it not working?
Well, there are a number of reasons. A lot of times it's not connected to anything else in the organization or what's really going on back on the job. So I go off to my training program and I hear about all these wonderful theories and all this stuff that sounds great kind of out there. But then I go back to my job and my boss or coworkers say, now get back to the real world.
Like, for example, doing teamwork. You know, teams are supposed to be terrific, but I've heard that a lot of people, when they go back, discover the company still isn't quite there in terms of creating the kind of teams that they know would be best.
Well, that's absolutely true. And a lot of what happens in the team kind of training area is all about group dynamics and psychoanalysis of teams and all this kind of fun stuff, and we can do games and off in the wilderness and all sorts of adventure things. But are we really dealing with the real issues back in the job that are keeping teams from working together? And how are we approaching and bringing some of this team learning into solving real problems?
Well, I guess one way to solve that might be to get the people back at the office, the bosses, involved in the training at the same time.
Absolutely. Even better than that is to get the bosses delivering it. Some of the most powerful way of implementing training in an organization is to have it cascade down through the organization so that the manager is the one delivering it. Not only is there not an attendance problem, because a lot of times in training sessions people are kind of saying, well, my boss really ought to be here instead of me. So there's a lot less of that. And of course the pressure is on the boss to practice what he preaches.
Do you find as a business consultant that that you need to go in and, as you say, kind of get the company moving in the right direction before they expect the workers to take the training and actually go forward with it?
Absolutely. One of the big things that we do in our consulting firm is really bring together the two streams. There's the personal development, the training, the focus on the individual, but then there's also the organization, its culture, its practices, its strategies, and the two need to be in sync with each other. We're working with a very large manufacturing company right now and just did a couple of days retreat with their senior executive where they were looking at implementing another training program to sort of, we call it sheep dip everybody in the organization and all this great training. And we were able to start to help them see that, well, we need to make sure if we're teaching teamwork, for example, that we're using teams effectively in implementing change in our organization so that the two go together.
From your viewing, what is sort of some of the least effective training, that what really doesn't help very much if you haven't set up all of that kind of context?
Well, I think sheep dip type training, just give everybody a whole bunch of training and don't apply it right away, so it's not used just in time. Training that is often too theoretical or is dealing in basic dynamics of teams, if we use that example again, but isn't practical.
Yeah, better off to give them a training class on how to better use their computer, for example, so that they can actually take back and
technical skills training tends to be a lot more practical.
Yeah, and that might help some of the cynicism that workers have about training right now.
Well, yes, a lot of training has what we call a high snicker factor in the organization. People kind of saying, oh yeah, right, well, if we duck lay low long enough, this too will pass, and we'll just go on to something else.
A lot of wasted money. Thanks for helping us with this.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.